My name is Scott Fresner, and I've been around the block because I was pointed out I'm old. But I like to think I'm on the cutting edge pretty well. I have to talk to my grandkids about how to use Instagram, but other than that, no, it's an interesting world. It's you know, people come in now today to your shop, and what do they bring you for artwork? A crappy JPEG typically, but now it's that cell phone image of what they designed on Custom Ink's website and took this picture of it in their phone, and you know, it's like it's a whole different thing. It used to be they bring you the napkin. You know, I don't know if it's napkins now as opposed to what they designed online, and you have to go, well, where'd that clip art come from? Well, I don't know, I just did it online. So I've been very active in the last 3 or 4 years with my son's business in Bowling Green, Kentucky. So if you think that I'm out of touch, I've pulled a lot of squeegees in the last couple of years. We do training classes, and we've been doing training, hands-on training classes for most of my adult life. And in the last 7 or 8 years in Kentucky, my son and I were doing training classes at hotel rooms like this. So we would have the gear in a storage room, a Vastex 6-color 6-station press. So as you have a Vastex press mill, that's about 2,000 pounds. So we would load up the Vastex press to dryer, everything into a U-Haul van, take it to a hotel room, undo it, do our 3-day class. So we decided we're getting too old for that, like a rock and roll band, and so we set up a brick and mortar store, and I spent 1.5 years just pretty much building that business and dealing with customers. And so if you think, well, I'm an old guy, I've been doing this a long time, I probably haven't printed a shirt for a while. Yeah, I've done that a whole lot. It felt good, by the way. Power washer, reclaiming screens, you know, so. But I've been doing it a long time. I wrote a book years ago called How to Print T-Shirts for Fun and Profit. Some of you probably have it. Can't give away books now. It's all on YouTube, you know. So it really is a whole new world. I mean, I've sold over the years since 1979 200,000 copies of my book, but I think last year I sold 10. Yeah, it's a crazy deal. Huh? Oh, good deal. All right, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And who else has my book? Probably a couple of you. You know, well, hang on to it because it's going to go out of print. I mean, used to be I'd print 5,000 or 10,000 copies a year and go through them, and now this last run of like 3,000 copies took me like 5 years to sell, you know, so yeah, I'm not rambling, but I've been around a long time. In 1986, I wrote a book called The Encyclopedia of Garment Printing, 1,000-page manual. A lot of money, and then people bought books, although nobody got rich on it. You know how you start a project and go, this is it, Mom, I'm going to make a lot of money on this. You know, we're going to put in a few hours and we're going to get rich. It didn't happen. But what I discovered over the years is that doing high-end, which is the topic here, doing high-end printing, stuff like I've got here, to me high-end typically would be photorealistic, probably a black shirt, soft hand, detail, lots going on, that would be high-end as opposed to what you all do every day, which I would call ink slapping, you know, which is one color, you know, a little logo here, back print, and make money. You know, sometimes high-end all sounds so sexy, and it's real sexy to show customers, hey, look what we can do. Yeah, but I only want a one color. But you show them this, and what do they go? Oh, you're a guy. You can do it because obviously you can do higher end stuff. So high end to me though is photorealistic, light shirt, dark shirt. I'm sure some of you do it in struggle. Some of you probably do it a lot, and maybe you came to this to pick up that one little nugget I might toss out. You know, that's how these seminars are. It's an hour and a half of me gambling for you for a while. So, but high end would be photorealistic, lighter dark shirts. And I think that if you're in, who's my newbies, brand new? This is your very first ISS show? Okay. This is the biggest show I think in the world for T-shirts. I mean, this show has become the premier. Years ago, when we started doing these shows, there was like quite a few shows, and each one was kind of good. But Long Beach seemed to have just become the one. I think part of it is because people on the East Coast need a reason to get the heck out of there in January. Who's from like East Coast or anybody? You can't get a flight, you know, it's canceled, and so this show has become the premier show. So what's going to happen if you're a newbie? And I'll just take a quick second. You're going to walk the show floor and you're going to be blown away. Your head's going to explode because of all the gear you see that you can't afford. And you're going to see, you know, lots of really high-end, because would guys like M&R be printing a one-color print in their booth? No, they want to razzle-dazzle you with the registration and the quality of the machinery, but usually when you look at that stuff and you see these great-looking prints, the real truth is it all started with a great set of separations. I mean, it was really kind of mechanical. We make a good screen, that's kind of a given, but for some of you it's probably a struggle. We do a set of separations and go to press and say a prayer and hope it works. So when you see stuff at the show, by the way, when you see stuff at the show that is just dynamite, you have no idea how many tries they did to get there. It's a great looking print, and the guys in the booth are going, look what we can do, and so did the seps. You have no idea how many screens they reburned, how many times they changed the color sequence, how many times they screwed around with it. You just see a great looking print. But I think what happens is you come away from that maybe thinking, I can't do that. That's, you know, just over my head. That's why you're here, hopefully. You know, my topic today is high-end printing made easy. And to me, it's a no-brainer. And don't take that the wrong way. I'm not talking down to you when I say it's a no-brainer and that, you know, you couldn't do it. Hopefully when you leave here, you'll realize that it's not a no-brainer. You just kind of follow some rules. You all got the handout? Those of you that came in late, I'm going to take the slide off in a second. There's a PowerPoint online. You can download it. It's case sensitive, so make sure and download it. Type it in correctly there. It's my slideshow here. I'm going to ask for questions, and I don't like to hold till the end. I'm not that guy, so if you have a question, toss it out. You know, just yank it out. Probably, if you help me remember to repeat the question, they're recording me, and occasionally I'll forget to repeat the question so that when you buy the tape later on, you'll hear the answer, but you have no idea what the question was. And so just humor me there. How many of you have a 6-color manual press or less? Okay, all right. 8-color? 10? Probably 12. 14, 18. Why are you here?
Yeah.
Because you're doing a lot of ink slapping?
Want to learn something.
You never know what you're going to learn from something like this. So, all right. So what's high-end? By the way, some of these samples here are just 6-color prints on a manual press. Yeah, I think that if you can see stuff that's high-end, that is not, you know, hanging in a Walmart, you know, where you aren't sure where it came from or how many colors they can print or how many colors are in the print. You know, you all have that disease of looking at a print and going, okay, I see 1, 2, 3, 4. Is there white below this? Turn the shirt inside out, stretch it and see. And you all have that disease.
Did you say these are all done on a 6-color manual?
No, I said some are. Some are.
Okay.
I'll show you which ones they are. This is actually a 5-color print on a manual press. Some of these have been around the block for years. This is my dog and pony show. 6-color print, manual press. Whether you like the print or not, I'm just showing you that it's photorealistic, 6-color print on a manual press. Not a great print, but this is from a high school. 6-color print on a manual press with wood frames. For some of you, this is high-end. Others of you are going, that's kind of boring, not very bright. You know, some of these are not bright because they've been packed in my suitcase for these seminars for years. My sexist shirt, and I apologize, ladies, if this offends you, but this is here for a reason. 6-color print on a manual press with skin tones. And so I'm just showing you that if you're thinking, well, I could never do it. Sure, you could do it. I mean, you might be some of you are startups and maybe burning screens in sunlight. You can still do it. Some of this stuff is on auto presses, though. So that's high-end to me. Like it or not, that's kind of what I think it is. It's easy, he says. Great piece of artwork. Good luck with that. You know, what do you get? A JPEG. You know, came from a vector program probably. Somebody's got this thing built somewhere, but the customer never has that. They've got their JPEG. I was telling my group yesterday, I did yesterday an all-day class on color separations, and I can just do a macro for my email. Do you have better art? You know, because I do separations for a living also. And the answer is always no. And my response is usually, but this was built somewhere in a vector program, AI or Corel Draw. Can I get that file? And the answer is, let me talk to the artist. You know, he gave me what I thought you wanted, which was a low-quality JPEG, you know. Who's my artist? I'll pick on you, slap you around. You know, it's like, it just kills me. Every day I get art from an artist. A lot of these guys, I think, are web guys. I think the web guys are the guys that are the new, and don't take this the wrong way if you're my artist, it's the new disease of the industry because they're thinking 72 DPI, not very big, and so then the guy goes, oh, I need some t-shirts, oh, I got the file here, and then they send a guy like me the file to separate, that's 72 DPI and not very big. And so I think it's the web guys that don't quite get it. When they built it, they could have built it at 300 DPI, you know, sampled it down for the web, but kept the original a little higher, but you know, we know that doesn't happen. Great color separations. I have an attitude that if I give you, even if you're a startup, and have only burned a few screens, if I give you a great set of separations, and tell you what mesh to use, and help you along with how to hold all the little tiny halftone dots and kind of give you some tips on how to print. My attitude is you could print a great print. I really feel that way. I know that from people that I deal with. I also sell separation software, and so a lot of times my new owner of that program is a newbie. Never really worked with Photoshop, have never done high-end, but wants to do it, buy my program, and I know that he'll be my guy that there'll be a few phone calls back and forth on the first job. He'll be my guy that'll send me a picture of the first job and say, but all the areas washed out in the lighter areas, and I'll know he's the guy that probably didn't know it, but he can't hold less than a 20% dot on the screen. He just doesn't know it because he's been doing nothing but ink slapping. But if I give you a great set of steps, I think you can do it. Proper ink use, great screen making. To me, and maybe I'm wrong, but to me, screen making is mechanical. Stretch it properly, do it by the rules, proper tension, code it correctly, expose it correctly, things you'll figure out if you're a newbie. I go on some of the Facebook groups, that's the new forums out there, and I just am blown away by who goes on the Facebook groups. There's what? Screen print startups and how to print. And if you don't know what these are, just go to Facebook and type in screen printing or t-shirt printing and you'll find all these groups. And more power to them, by the way. I'm not banging on them, but sometimes the questions are, you know, I burned my last screen last night and, you know, what do you guys think? And of course the responses are, how many times did you code it? What mesh? You know, oh, what mesh? Okay, that's important. I guess you need to know that. It just seems like sometimes there's this little missing link somewhere. So making a good screen to me is not difficult. In the beginning, you'll think it's difficult. You'll burn, you know, if you're starting up, you all know that have started up at one time, that it's the first few screens, you have to dial in the exposure times, dial in your coding, dial in your exposing unit. But after that, hopefully, when you're burning a 305 mesh, you have the time dialed in, a 230 mesh, the time's dialed in, a 156 mesh, you got the time for that. You kind of figure it out, so it's very mechanical. So making a good screen is important. Proper ink usage. I can't tell you how many times customers have said to me, when I say, put the colors on a 305, well, I don't have any 305s, so my ink won't go through a 305. You know, this is a very, in the beginning, when people are starting up, what do you have? And what's the answer? 110. 110. Oh my God, shoot me. But it's that supplier mentality, because who are they talking to, you guys, to? You're talking to your supplier for advice. What does he know? He's probably selling, you know, some suppliers sell science supplies, vinyl, you know, light bulbs, you know, they sell all this stuff, and screen printing happens to be one of the things they sell, and you're asking these guys, I'm not totally banging on them, but, you know, supplier, you're going to find a supplier who's probably an ex-printer, I think, who really understands it and gets it. And I don't know who in this area, I mean, I know McLogan and you got other guys, I don't know who the good or the bad guys are, don't tell me, I don't want because they're recording me, but you got to find a good supplier. But again, what do they know? Are they in the trenches? Probably not, other than selling the goop. So, proper ink usage, real important. Great printing technique. I should put next to that, this is an athletic printing. But those of you that are my athletic printers, you'll be my tough ones. You know, got to get you away from low mesh and lots of strokes and lots of flash cures. This will be new territory for you. I know if I do SEPs for somebody and they say, well, we don't do this too often, I know that I'm going to be a little bit in trouble, but I'll work with them on the first job, and once they've done a couple jobs that are high-end, they'll kind of get it, that it requires some finesse, sharp squeegee, minimal strokes, not mash the ink through the screen, and happy customer. So, I have in my office, now if you watch any of my latest videos, behind me is a license plate that says no sniveling. For years in my classrooms, I always had a little sign that says no sniveling. Get over it. No, you can't use 110 mesh. No, for a lot of stuff you can't use 156. Oh, but that's all I had. The high meshes are expensive. Get over it. No sniveling. Move on. Buy it. Just do it. I just can't tell you how many times I've sent steps to people where I've told them, put the base on a 230, put the top colors on a 305. And they come back and say, well, the print's kind of heavy and muddy. And I know what they've done. I say, well, what mesh did you use? Did you follow my recommendation? Well, the screen guy said 156 would be fine, you know, for all the colors. Well, I'm just selling, you know. Now, not to say it wouldn't work on a no-brainer design where it's not critical. Maybe you have like an athletic, like a school thing with a lot of heavy type, and then you've got some sort of high-end part. Not to say that wouldn't be okay. No, you can't use direct film for your screens. Direct film is where you actually lay the film on a screen, basically. You drive, you peel off the carrier, you expose it. Some of you will go to your supplier and you're going to go, wow, that's the hottest deal. Hot, you've been out for What do you think? Direct film, 40 years?
45 years.
You know, forever. I did years ago, an exhibitor who's not here, but I won't bang on him. He wanted to design the print in the booth, a high-end design for a 6-color manual press. And I go by the opening day of the show, and the print sucks. And this is a print that I have printed that shows hundreds of times. Beautiful print. The print sucks. I go, so-and-so. I said, what happened? I said, well, wait, I'll tell you what happened, because I knew the guy. You use direct film. Well, yeah, that's the best. I said, I told you, don't use direct film. You used Newman Roller high-tension mesh, which needs to be, you know, 50, 60 newtons. You can barely print because it's so tight. Well, yeah, I said, I told you that would probably not be the best for this. You know, you just didn't listen to me. Yeah, but he wouldn't give up. But the print was awful. But the point was, he didn't quite get it. Here's a guy who made equipment who you would ask for advice for. And you know what I'm talking about?
No, but I can guess.
Anyway. Yes, you have to be able to print a half-tone dot. Again, I send off separations to newbies, and I'm not talking down to you when I say newbies, because I love newbies. I love people that are starting up, or people that are in business and been in business for years that just don't do half-tone dots. Just a lot of spot color, a lot of multicolored, you know, a lot of athletic. I get it, but I can't tell you how many times people have said, well, we don't do half-tone dots, you know. That's a first clue that I need to be aware that they probably don't understand proper coding. They're probably overexposing their screens. They don't get it. You got to be able to burn a half-tone dot. And so we're going to cover these things. So it's a real no-brainer. I'm going to give you a link shortly that you can download the test file, that you can download, print out on your printer, expose on your different mesh counts, and you can see, can you hold a little tiny dot? They call that a 5% dot. And dots are kind of in 5, 10, 15, 20 little half-tone dots. The bigger, the higher the number, the bigger the dot, the lower the frequency, the bigger the dot. You got to see, what can you burn? The guys that send me, that I do steps for, that call and say it's really washed out on all the lighter areas, pretty much I'll say, go download my test file and burn it, and then call me back, take 2 aspirin, and let me know tomorrow how it is. And they come back and go, wow, we can't even do anything in those lower areas. Well, those are called the highlight dots, you know. How long are you exposing your screens for? Oh, 3 minutes. That's just a number, by the way. Okay, 3 minutes for what? Oh, we do 3 minutes for everything. And you mean for your 110s, you do 3 minutes. And then you burn these on a 305, like I said, yeah, for 3 minutes. I had one guy just a month ago say, we go 4 minutes for the high mesh. Why do you go 4 minutes longer for the high mesh? My supplier told me. I'm just telling you. Now, maybe he misunderstood the supplier. Maybe the question was misunderstood. But he was told to go longer for the high mesh. So what do I say to a guy like that? I say, try 30 seconds on a 305. Oh, it'll never work. It'll never work. Can't do it. It'll wash out. Well, just, you know, what do you have to lose? Burn a screen and waste a screen, you know? And what's the phone call back? Wow. Holy crap. I held that little dot. I never knew that. Because these guys are doing ink slapping. No problem with that. That's where the money is. And they're just not aware that they've probably been overexposing. And maybe not overexposing for their low mesh count, but for the higher mesh counts, it's a little more finesse. Yes, you have to have color separations. When you do them in-house, we're going to cover some of the sources, whether it be a guy like me, there's lots of separators out there, automated software, learn it yourself, watch a couple dozen YouTube videos and struggle with it, you know. You got to do steps. Because if I can back up and rewind a little bit, what I say a minute ago, I could give you a great set of steps and you could do this. It's in the separations. Although I had someone yesterday from a really large company, it was really a funny conversation. This is a young man who's working now with his dad, and his dad is one of the premier printers in the industry. And he was commenting that the steps are important, but his dad can walk into the shop and just do that one tweak, you know, a little more squeegee pressure, a little more speed, slow it down, and the design will come in. And so he says the steps are important, but sometimes it's that finesse, you know, just that gut feel for what it's going to take. That's a dilemma that I have when I do steps for customers, and I send them the steps off, and maybe they're struggling, and it's like maybe their ink opacities aren't very good, and so I come back and kind of go, well, what did you do to make it work? And because remember I said a second ago that you see a great print at the show, you have no idea how many times they burn screens again, redid the steps, changed the print order, you have no idea what happened to it. And so it'll be pretty much, what did you do to help the steps work better at your shop? Oh, nothing. You know, my guys were afraid. You said 305 mesh and 230 mesh, you said here's the print order, and so we did it, you know. And I come back and go, well, you might try swapping these two screens, see if that kind of helps the color that we're having a problem with. And it's usually a problem because you have a 6-color press. The high-end stuff, that'll be the problem for you. That's why I showed you the Microbabes print. 6-color print on a manual press with flesh tones and a highlight white. You know, so sometimes you have a little problem with only 6 colors. I will bet that maybe 40% of the separations I do are for people with 6-color presses. Now the rest of it is almost like cake. Probably do 20% for guys that can do 10 or 12 colors. Well, then I can do whatever I want. Then I can give them every color. You know, the guys with 6-color presses, I've got to kind of go, okay, here's all the key colors, but there's a little bit of green back here in these trees, but I can't afford to print green. Okay, I'll make it with yellow and blue, but it's going to suck. It's going to be a real pukey green, but that's the compromise. So that's the compromise you will have. You will probably need to get Photoshop. Who does not have Photoshop? All right, put it on your list. When you go home, oh no, I got Photo Paint. You know, you got Photo Paint back there. That's going to be great for me, and I'm going, no, Photo Paint isn't Photoshop. The world uses Photoshop. Okay, of all the samples I have here, were all color separated in Photoshop. They may have started off in a vector program. They may have started off in AI or Corel Draw, but they were all color separated in Photoshop. Well, why? I could separate it in Adobe Illustrator and Corel Draw. You can, but what does Adobe Illustrator or Corel Draw know about an underbase or a highlight printer or really good trapping and choking? What's it know about that? Nada. With Photoshop, it's the magic. But I find this kind of a struggle sometimes with people that are really into a vector program. Who's my vector snobs? Because they're so proud of yourselves. I like it. You're my foiler. You did exactly what I was hoping. You know, used to be I'd go, who's the Mac guy? Mac guys. Oh, we're a Mac guys. And the PC guys. PC guys. You know, how'd I know you were a Mac guy too? All right. Who are the Mac guys? Not that. Oh, that's right. I don't know if it's half and half. That's certainly changed over the years. You know, years ago it would be who has a computer. we taught this in the camera. We taught how to cut RubyLith overlays. You know, RubyLith what? Ruby, she's the dancer down at the strip club, right? No, this is the red film that you lay over the thing. But we go, who has a Mac, who has a computer? And then it was kind of half and half. And then for a while, I think when Apple was stumbling, we had a little more PC guys in the room. And who's the Corel guys? Corel guys, and who's the Illustrator guys? Now, Photoshop has eaten Corel's lunch. I'm just giving you an opinion. I've been doing separations now as a daily living for the last 8 years. I do about 1,000 to 1,200 steps per year. I do a lot of separations, and so every day I'm in Photoshop. But of the files I get, 5 or 6 years ago, I would have gotten maybe 25% of the files I would have gotten would have been Corel. Which is okay. That means they built it, they didn't know how to separate it, and they needed an underbase. They give it to a guy like me to separate in Photoshop, Corel. Some AI files. Today, I get 1 Corel file a month. I mean, I just don't get it. It's like, oh, Corel file. It tells me a lot. And I don't mean to talk down. Who's my Corel guys? Proudly. Okay, so you're declining. Used to be Corel guys. I think Adobe is eating Corel's lunch because of the Creative Cloud. Because you now get Creative Cloud, you get Photoshop, and oh, what the heck, we get Illustrator. Well, I've heard about that program. Let's see how it works. And the whole industry has churned. And then Corel has done a nice job, as they always have, of kind of mucking things up and little bugs here and there. Others that drive Corel know that you never update. You know, let it settle in. You know, wait for Service Pack 2 or 3 before you before you update. So I'm not anti-Corel because I've done Corel videos. I use Corel. I'm more comfortable with Corel. But the world has gone to Adobe Illustrator. So those of you that are not sure which way to go, if you're just starting off and what software do you need a vector program. And the choices have been, years ago it was freehand, Corel, or Illustrator. I talked to somebody yesterday who still using freehand. Wow, what version is that? You know, I don't think they've had an update for who's a freehand guy? Freehand guys here? Nope, nobody's? All right, doesn't matter. But you have a vector program and you need that, and you need then Photoshop. And I can tell by the people I do my separations for that when I send off the steps, my first question is, I'll do the steps, but can you print these out of Photoshop? Because I'm going to be doing the steps in Photoshop. And the answer is half the time, I got Photoshop, but I never use it. You know, I get confused when I go there. You know, I could probably print out of Photoshop, but I was told you never print from Photoshop. All I can tell you is that most of the prints here were printed right from Photoshop. Not to say you couldn't take them to Adobe Illustrator and bring them up and place the image and print from Illustrator. Anyway, so, can be done on a manual press all day long. Don't be talked down to. You walk the show and you see the automatics and you see the great prints. Go by the M&R booth. There's a company there called Virus that sells water-based ink. That's real trendy. And I heard last night that they're doing one of their prints now on a 6-color manual press, which is really unusual. These guys have...
It's a Diamondback.
Oh, it's Diamondback. It's an auto, but 6 colors. Is it 6?
Yes.
Yeah. So these guys are have traditionally shown this great-looking print, just blow you away. But you look and you got 3 whites and 3 flashes and 12 colors, and so for most of you, it's like, oh, it looks really cool. Can't do that, you know. And so I'm pleased to see. I'm curious what they're going to be printing, but you can do it on a manual press. Don't be blown away at the show by people that say, oh, you can't do it on a manual. Just be aware that in this show, you've got some exhibitors who will talk down to you. They'll kind of look at you as a newbie. You have other exhibitors who you're their customer, you're their guy. They suck you in, and you'll even go, why did I buy that? Just look good at the show, can't get it to work, you know. Be aware, for those of you that are newbies, this is not a direct-to-garment session, but be aware, you're going to see a lot of direct-to-garment, a lot of DPG. And who has direct-to-garment now? Some of you must have it. And it's a love-hate, isn't it? I mean, you love it or hate it, depending on what day it is and how if the head's clogged and how well the white's firing. It's just one of those things. So just be aware that you're going to see lots of razzle-dazzle going on if you're a newbie. And you will be blown away if you're a brand new newbie of whether I go to screen printing, whether I go to direct-to-garment, you know, which way do I go? Which is the sexiest? Do I do embroidery? Do I do rhinestones? This show has so much going on. I can just tell you from experience, having sold a lot of direct-to-garment machines, that I thought it would kill screen printing. It helps screen printing. People buy a direct-to-garment, and the next thing you know, they're going into screening because they realize that the guy that wants 100 shirts do one-color print. Why would you want to piss away, you know, 30 cents a print for the ink on a one-color print when you can screen print it for a nickel or less and probably have the job done in an hour? And so I'm just suggesting that if you're new, if you're really new, just be careful. Be careful when you spend your money at the show. There's all these show deals and sales guys that are real salespeople twisting your arms. So just be aware of that. All right, so back up. The number of color limitations, that's a problem for you. I think I probably said a different number earlier, but 60% of the steps I do are for 6-color presses. Don't let suppliers talk down to you. And be very careful of the advice online. I'm not anti the forums because there needs to be a place, but sometimes on the forums I'm surprised at people answering questions that are really newbies, that are really not giving great advice, but they're giving what they feel is the right answer today because of their limited experience. And so I find that if you're a real newbie and you go online and you kind of read some of the answers, you're kind of going, like somebody that posted on one of them this morning, I happened to read it when I got up and posted, you know, what mesh do you guys use for white ink? And the first guy that responded had the right answer. I use typically 190s, 230s, you know, I do a lot of simulated process color. Another guy posts right after that, I use 110 even for simulated process color. I'm like, oh my God, just shoot me. And so, but then somebody who doesn't do this kind of stuff sees that and goes, oh, okay, well then my 110s are going to be fine for that because Bob online said it was okay. And so that just be aware of that. I'm not banging on it, but. Okay, the steps are everything. Did I say that already? How many times have I said that? 2 or 3 times? Just, you kind of get where I'm heading. Number 1 is do your own steps. Take a class, you know, from me, or I have an online course now, t-shirt printing master classes. You get 65 Scott videos. You get me for 11 hours of me on how to separate. And so, you know, you learn how to do it yourself. I'm okay with that. Plan B is use automated programs. My program is T-Sep, but you've got QuickSeps, you've got Ryan selling Separation Studio. Who's got Separation Studio? Probably a lot of you, okay. Who's got my programs? Whether it be Fast Rooms, T-Seps, QuickSeps. Who else do we have? I'm not even sure if EasyR is still being sold. The one called EasyR. Did I miss any? We're kind of the big 3 or 4. And they do the heavy lifting, you know. I get sometimes artists who go, well, I use your program, and I've got Sep Studios also, and they're okay, you know, but I don't need those programs to do it. Well, I'm okay with that, but I don't think your boss probably is, because, you know, 8 hours later, when you're kind of done tweaking and a couple of different attempts at press, your ego got in the way. The automated programs do the heavy lifting. I get people that bang on Separation Studio or bang on me or bang on QuickSeps, and usually I go, You know, it's really about the tweaks afterwards. It's about that intuition, that gut feel. Do I pop this color? Do I change this yellow to more of a golden yellow? You know, most of our programs all work on a limited color palette. We kind of try and average it out using off-the-shelf inks, limited number of colors, same colors every time, although my program lets you pick colors from the design if you want. But it's all about tweaking it, that gut feel. I like to tell people that buy my program that, and it'll be the same with Step Studios, your first job will be a struggle. You're going to play with it. You probably haven't burned many half-tone dots. It'll be a struggle. Your second job will be better. In any case, you're going to be happy with probably your first job because you've never done anything like this in your life before, and you raise the last screen up and you go, you want to call your mom. Mom, look what I did. You know, it's like, so, but after that it kind of settles in. And so the programs do the heavy lifting, and you learn what tweaks to do. After you've done a couple of jobs, you'll learn that maybe you need to pop that base a little more. That's real simple in Photoshop. You'll learn that you need to maybe rearrange your color sequence, or maybe just tweak it. Obviously, I use my program every day because I'm a separator, and I push the button, and just like the Step Studios, I'm done. And then I go, well, that didn't work very well. Dump all the colors but the underbase maybe, and start pulling colors. But it did the heavy lifting of at least making the underbase. You know, so I'm just suggesting that, I'm not trying to make a sale, and they bang on guys like that if you're pitching from the podium. But I've given Step Studios a nice bone. Quick Steps, I will give kind of a half a bone, because he never goes to his shows. Who knows who the guy is, but he does sell software. So I'm just suggesting that, did I say it already? The steps are everything. If the steps are done correctly. The steps have to be done correctly to adjust for dot gain, so when you go to press, it prints the way it should, it adjusts and it compensates for dot gain. That's the problem with outside separations. So what makes separations great? They allow for dot gain at the press. About once a month, a customer will send me an email saying, I had some steps done overseas, and they just don't work. Will you tweak them? My response is, no, I'm not going to fix somebody else's. I'll do the steps for you my way, but I'd like to see what you got. I want to see, you know, I'm curious. I just get blown away, because these were steps obviously done by someone who doesn't understand t-shirt printing, someone who has no clue about dot gain, just thinks you just pull a color and boom, 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 life is good. And don't realize that the dots are going to grow 30, 40%. And so it's like pretty much, you know, these are just the wrong guys. So a good set of separations need to be forgiving, easy to print. A good set of separation needs to use the shirt color to be part of the image. If the shirt color is black especially. Black is the best color to separate for because I get a free color. But what's the color of the day? Gray. Y'all, a lot of gray here in the room too. I'll bet, now 2 years ago the color of the day was safety green. Safety orange, oh, just shoot. Because it means I've got to do a really heavy underbase for a set of separations to mask, not let the color come through and affect all my gray areas and all the colors. Just crank the underbase up to make it a solid. You know, the customer goes, this underbase is so heavy. Hey, you want it on that safety orange shirt, you know, what do you expect? That kind of died off, other than for the workers who need those, but as far as the masses or the public. Now, I'll bet half the shirts I do are for black and heather gray, dark gray, you know, which I love. Gray's a great color because I can use gray in the design. I can let gray, you know, kind of be part of my design, meaning that the print's going to be more breathable, you know, softer. You could probably all do high end, and that would be like a brick, solid underbase, flash, a color, flash, another color, flash, another color, flash. And those of you that flash every color, this is not how this stuff is printed. You go to the show, you'll see, print the underbase, do a flash, and if you're on a good day, wet, 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 wet. Just like that. When I tell newbies that are doing a lot of athletic printing and a lot of ink slapping, you know, oh, just one flash. Oh no, I can't do that. Why not? My supplier said, I have to flash every color.
I just came across that problem because I'm using those APs. I put my first color down, I put my base down, I flashed it, and then when I put my color down, it don't pop enough. So I flash it again and do another, because I found that if I like my white base, if I go back around and I put my color down without flashing.
Well, yeah, you can't do that. Well, what mesh were you on for the white?
The white was 160 and the color was